Okay, so again, I'm going to hand out your pop quiz here in a second. I'll let you kind of finish it today if you did not finish that yesterday, because I know we kind of took it right at the end of class yesterday. But I'll hand that out here in a second. Let me open that up.
Oh, did you check your email before you left, Ames? Okay. Because I sent it like last 3 minutes class. Get off. Oh, I hate my shoes. You know, I'll probably just go to Mason and then.
There it is. Boom, bring that back over. Alright, so here's the pop quiz we took yesterday. Let me go through the instructions one more time just so you can see this. You can make fixes, corrections, whatever you need to do. I'm going to hand them back. Alright. Okay. Let's see. Sam, I think you need to move today since Eric moved yesterday. So I'll just place you in a spot here. There you go. Here, just for today. Perfect. There you go. Okay. Okay, as you guys are getting your stuff out, ready to go here. Okay. So, pop quiz number 1. Make sure you're finding the sum. That means you're adding. Show all the work. I think the hint I gave you yesterday is you have to line up the decimals. Make sure of that. Show all the work for the answers. You might have to carry numbers. Make sure of that. Number 3 and 4, you're finding the difference. That means you're subtracting. These, I think the hint I gave you yesterday is you are lining up the decimals, so you can actually subtract. Make sure you are borrowing when need be. That's your hint. 5 and 6, you are finding the product. The hint on those, you do not need to line up decimals because you can forget about them. Then you can put in your final answer. Make sure you're showing the work. That if you forget about the decimals, it makes that number 6 a lot easier than it is. Number 7 and 8, you are dividing. Now, the hint I gave you yesterday in class was you were doing long division. That's where you have to move the decimals. So keep that in mind. You move a decimal for the divisor. That's the one hint I'll give you. Okay, I'll give you a little bit of time here today, maybe another 10 minutes, 15 minutes or so. You can actually work on this, finish it. Double check your answers right now that you are correct. So, like Eric, like I know like you thought you were kind of done. Go back through, check to see if you added correctly, you carried numbers correctly. You can double check your work. See if the answers make sense. But I'll give you a little bit of time here to work, okay? All right, and then once we're done, we've turned them in, we feel comfortable, then we'll take some notes.
Or once we get done with the problem, can we calculate and make sure it's correct?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, if you need to. What? As long as you're showing work, okay, you can do that. Yeah, so if you want to double check, calculate it out, you can do that. Okay, let me stop the camera here and I'll let you have some time. That way the camera's not just looking at the board. A few notes on what we're doing. We were doing division. Now let's talk about a couple problems here on division. Okay. On division, let's say we're taking 16.083 and we're going to divide by 0.0002. Okay, this is something kind of like the one you had on your quiz. Something very, very similar to this. All right, so here's my question. Which number goes in the house first?
The bigger number.
Bigger?
16.
Yeah. Now, I know it is the bigger number. You are technically right, but normally for long division, it's just whatever the front number is. Because this could technically be the smaller of the two numbers. But that one goes in the house. The number on the outside is this number. Now, what did we talk about? What?
The answer is a big number.
Okay, the answer will be big. I agree. Okay, but what do we have to do first? What was the hint I told you when we did the quiz? What do you have to do with the decimal?
Forget it?
No,
Nope,
that's a
move it
multiplier.
back.
You have to move it, right? So there's a decimal on the outside. You have to literally get rid of it. You have to like move it over. So it's kind of like you're forgetting it, but you're moving it. Now, how many spots did I just move it?
4.
4. So there's a 2 on the outside, right? And the decimal's behind it. On the inside, you need to move this decimal over 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is where the decimal will be. So the number will be this.
I want to say, can't you just put a 0 behind the 3 now?
Exactly. Yep, you're gonna put a 0. And if you want, you can even put the zeros back here. You can put as many as you want, as long as they're after the decimal, okay? Now, I know that seems a little weird, we haven't done that yet. That was one of the problems I was waiting on today to do. Because if you need to carry on, like you don't finish, like it doesn't give you a remainder of 0, you might need to keep going. I think this one works out nice and pretty. But anyways, so I don't know if we'll necessarily need all these extra zeros. All right, so can 2 go into the number 1 without going over?
No.
No, so we put a 0 there. Can 2 go into 16?
Yes, 8.
8 times, 2 times 8 is 16, that's as close as I can get is 16. Again, when you're on your chart, you're trying to find the number that gets closest to this one, and you go right up the chart and you see what number is up above. So when I subtract, you get a 0, you bring down the next number, which is 0. 2 can go into 0, 0 times. So then you just bring down the next number. Okay? 2 can go into 8. 4 times. So 2 times 4 is 8. And you subtract, because again, I'm trying to get as close to this number as possible. So 8 was the closest number I can get to, is right on, and then you go up the chart and see it's a 4. You subtract, you get a 0, you bring the next number down. How many times can 2 go into 3?
2 going
Once.
3.
But it's a 1 with a 2 down below. That's as close as you can get, right? You subtract, you get a 1, you bring down the next number. How close can I get to a 10?
5.
5 times. 5 times with a 10, and I do get a remainder of 0, which is nice, and this decimal comes straight up. So it was 80,000. Okay, my answer was 80,415. Now, here's the thing.
Yep.
This number makes sense to me. Now, I know it doesn't seem like it because we just took the number 16 and divided by that number, and we just got a bigger number. Usually when you divide, you make smaller piles, right? You make smaller.
So technically, it's just
What?
it mixed with dividing and adding pretty much.
Yeah.
That's what it did to itself.
Yeah, it's huge. The reason why the number's big, you're absolutely right, is because when you divide by really small numbers, the numbers get bigger. The numbers get larger, okay? When you divide by big numbers, the numbers get smaller. So the smaller the decimal, the bigger your answer will be. The bigger this number is, like larger, let's say we're dividing by a 5 instead of 0, then the answers will be smaller. So that's kind of the idea that what we do here, okay? I have one more example I would like to cover today. One more example that's going to have a weird situation that happens. Okay? All right, here we go. 8.0503. Okay? And we're going to divide by 0.3. This is something we haven't discussed yet. It's a brand new type of question. Okay? Which number goes in the house?
The 8.
The 8, okay, because it's the front number. Not just because it's bigger, but it's the front number, so 8.0503. Okay? Number on the outside is 0.3. Now what do we have to do to the decimal?
Forget about it.
Move it.
Technically forget about it, but we're going to move it, right? We're going to move it. How many spots do I move it?
1.
1. So you move it on the inside 1 spot. So really, this is my problem. It's 80.503. So that's my new number. Okay. Questions on how that worked? Okay. So let's go through the math.
It's a headache.
What?
The answer's a headache.
Yeah, it's kind of big. All right. So here's the idea. We're going to do the normal math. What number can 3 get closest to 8 with? 3 times what gets me closest to 8? Without going over.
6.
Yeah, we get closest to 6, so 3 times 2 would give you 6, right? You subtract, it gives me 2, and I bring down the next number, which is 0. Okay? Now, what number do I take times 3 that gets me closest to 20? 3 times what gets me? I think I get closer than 15. What's the number I can get close? Closest to 20.
18.
18? Yeah, so I get close to 18, so 3 times 6. That's 18. When I subtract, I get 2 again. You bring down the next number, which is a 5. Now, what number can I get closest to 25?
21, 7.
Nope. One more closer. 24, which is, I think, 8. I subtract, you get a 1. You bring down the next number. So now it's a 10.
What are we?
So 3 closest to 10.
3 closest to 10, 9.
9, okay.
So
That means a
3.
3 up top. So I subtract to get a 1. So now we're at here, we bring down the next number, which is this number, which is now a 3. And again, I'm continuing over here, this is continuation, okay? 3 get closest to 13 with what?
13.
Yep, 13.
12.
12. So we put a 4 up above. I subtract, I get a 1. Now, that's my last number, right? I drop down the 3, which is this number, and I got a 1.
You'll have a remainder of 1.
Yeah, I have a remainder 1. We can't have remainders. So we have to add zeros. The only time we can have remainders is if we do fractions. Okay? So I'm gonna keep adding zeros. So if I add a 0 and I drop it, that means the 0 goes here. So now I'm going to 10 again. So I subtract, or I put a 9 here because 3 can get closest to 10 using a 9, so that'd be a 3. So I get a 1. And I bring down the next 0, which is 0. And what's going to keep happening?
You're gonna keep it.
It keeps going, right? Because it's 10, I would do a 9 again, putting a 3 up above the house, and then it would be 10 again, and I'll drop a 3, and then it would be 10 again, and I drop a 3, and these just keep going. This is called a repeating answer, or repeating decimal. In fact, your answer, if I move this decimal straight up, your final answer is 26.8343333. You're repeating over and over and over, right? Well, this is how you can write it. Your calculator won't do this, but you can write it like this, where the 3 is repeating, put a little bar, but the bar means it's repeating. Because you can't put remainders anymore, in this case, since we're doing decimals, you actually have to keep going until it stops. Well, if you notice it's not going to stop, you can put the bar. Like you said, it's kind of headed. You see the numbers across your screen, like, whoa, the answer just keeps going.
Yeah.
Because it started repeating 3s over and over and over. Now, on your calculator, if you type this in, actually, I do want you to type this in your calculator. When you type in 8.0503 divided by 0.3, right? Type it exactly. I want you to tell me what the last number is on your screen. I wonder if it tells me a 4.
Divided by.
0.3. Has a
No,
bunch.
it's a 3.
Just 3s all the way across. Nice. All right, because
Yeah,
sometimes the
4.
calculator, it'll do a bunch of 3s and then suddenly it'll just say 4. And people get thrown off. Usually it's like if there's 6s back here. But the reason why it keeps going is because of this. You would just keep long dividing, you just keep giving you 10s. All right, questions on this?
Nope.
Perfect. Okay. That's it for today. I just want to do a couple problems with long division. We'll probably look at a small assignment tomorrow on this, so you'll definitely need your textbooks tomorrow. I'm thinking maybe like 5 problems-ish, just in long division. Answers could be repeating, so we'll probably try to practice a couple of repeating problems tomorrow to see how well you do, and I might have you try out a couple. I don't know, you will need your, I might have you bring your Chromebooks tomorrow. I might have you actually put your answers on a Chromebook, so I don't know. Just bring a book, bring your book and your Chromebook. Okay, but that's it for today. Pretty easy. Rest time is yours. You have about, 5 minutes left in class here.